he constructed and founded the office of the Banco Bolívar, work which he gave to the German Nicolas Sammer, who produced numerous architectural works. In the same place, today we find the Bartolomé Calvo Library of the Banco de la República, serving the general public.
The Calle de la Inquisición, before called the Calle de la Contaduría, because of the royal treasury that parted from the customs administration in 1718, installed itself in the two neighboring houses. The first, situated on the corner of Calle de la Inquisición with Santa Teresa, and the second, with Calle de las Damas. In the first of these houses, General Juan José Nieto lived during the last stage of his life. He was a notable general, public man, and governor of the province of Cartagena in 1851, and president of the state of Bolívar in 1816 during the Confederación Granadina. Next to the Calle de la Inquisición, on the corner with Calle Baloco, to the left are the houses which today are site of the Chamber of Commerce of Cartagena. These two houses are a representation of Cartagena's colonial times. The corner house was site to the famed school founded by Dr. Dionisio Hermenegildo Araujo, great doctor, jurist, pedagogue, orator, writer, and polyglot, who educated many of Cartagena's generations. The Calle Baloco, right after the Calle de la Inquisición, is one who best maintains colonial estates, the majority of them restored recently. The street takes its name because along it lived the maestre de campo Don Francisco Baloco Legrave, governor of Cartagena in 1716.
Down the Calle de Santa Teresa, we get to the Calle de las Damas. This name, as it seems, dates to the end of the 16th century, when urban transformation from Paul and Bareque hamlets to Stone City took place. Several local legends were set on this street. The most widely known tells how Felipe II stayed in a house on this street when he came to Cartagena disguised as a woman to see the city walls that had cost so much to the Spanish crown. The implausibility of his story is evident because the construction of the walls of Cartagena began in 1614, 18 years after the death of the monarch. According to another legend, the founder of the Popa Convent, Fray Alonso de la Cruz Paredes, found in a house of this street, the one named Bodegón de la Candelaria, the image of the Virgin of Candelaria worshipped in that sanctuary. The historian Donaldo Bosa sustains that the name of the street must have originated on a famous Damas dweller, a very common name in Andalusia.
We follow with the Calle de la Amargura or Bitterness Street, which owes its name to the fact that it was a path of the procession of the heretics to be condemned by the Inquisition Tribunal on the Plaza Mayor, today the Plaza de Bolívar. Through this street, we arrive to the Plaza de la Aduana. This plaza has had various names throughout history. At first, it was called Plaza de la Mar for its closeness to the old dock, the first in the city, today occupied by the bastion of San Ignacio, and next to the San Pedro Claver Sanctuary. Afterwards, it was called Plaza Real or Royal Plaza, where the Casa Real de la Contratación was erected on its northern side. This beautiful colonial house with portals and wide balconies was known in the 20th century by Cartagena's people La Casa de la Isla, or House of the Island, for its being delimited by 4 streets. It was demolished by the Canadian Petroleum Company Andean to erect in its place in 1929 the actual 7-story building for the running of their offices.
The Andean building, as well as the Banco BBVA, still conserve the typology of the plaza's original portals, known as Moorish portal. In the Casa Real de la Contratación, the Baron of Pontois once stayed when assaulting Cartagena in 1697. Several governors and viceroys also lived there during their permanence in the city. As before said, in the beginning this plaza was open to the Bahía de las Ánimas. During the colonial period, it was site of intense commercial activity, especially during the celebration of the Feria de los Galeones, or Fair of the Galleons. In 1597, Governor Pedro Fernández de Bustos ordained an artillery guard rail for defense to unload goods brought by ships on the south side of the plaza, between the old dock and the new. The building, today the mayor's office standing on top of the city wall, replaced the old guard rail and was constructed in 1622 by Cristobal de Roda for the running of the customs, treasury, and accounting office, with the customs door opening towards the dock. The first level was destined to deposit goods. Its base consisted of a portal that runs all along the building, with arches over shaft monolithic columns of limestone and one-piece balconies on the second level. Its roof made of waved mud tiles. The door to the extreme right, called Piñeres door, was opened in 1887. The west side of the plaza was occupied by houses preceded by supports, as can be seen on a 1571 blueprint of the plaza concealed in the Archivo de Indias or Indies Archives in Seville, Spain. The Casa del Marqués del Premio Real, today occupied by the Servicio Nacional de Aprendizaje, SENA, stands out. This is a magnificent example of Cartagena's period domestic architecture. On this side of the plaza, we can also find the Banco Bancolombia. In 1894, when this plaza was elected to decide to erect a monument to Christopher Columbus, donated by the Italian immigrant Juan Bautista Maineri Trucco, the municipal council rebaptized it with the name of the discoverer. Years later, he called it Plaza Rafael Núñez, which is today's official name, in honor of the distinguished son of Cartagena. However, locals still call it Plaza de la Aduana.
We now come to the plazoleta between Plaza de la Aduana and Plaza San Pedro Claver, before called Plaza San Juan de Dios. Here, next to the mayor's office, we find the house named Sala de Armas or Hall of Arms, which since 1775 has held the hand weapons to defend the city.
Next to this house, we find the old Almacén Galeras gallery storage, today the Museum of Art of Cartagena. This is one of the oldest buildings in the city. The menace of pirates and corsairs made this vigilance and control establishment necessary with help of a fleet of galleys docked in Cartagena. These vessels, which worked as coast guards, were huge ships between 60 and 75 meters long, with 200 rowers. These were mostly convicts serving time. The presence of this ship in Cartagena made it necessary to have a storage for goods. Therefore, King Felipe II, in the year 1587, by royal decree, puts forth the construction of the Almacén Galeras. The building was rectangular in shape and consisted of 2 levels. In front had a portal opened to the Plaza de la Carnicería, or Plaza of the Butchery, also called Plaza of the Dock, just in front of where today's San Pedro Claver Sanctuary is located. Due to the modifications to which it was summoned, the portals and columns can only be seen today on the inside of the building. The Museum of Modern Art that works here has an important collection of Latin American art and organizes periodic expositions of national and international artists.
Now we arrive on the Plaza San Pedro Claver, presided by the 18th century sanctuary and temple of the same name. This architectural compound replaced a 2-story building with a small church constructed by the Jesuit Andrés Alonso near 1615, and was for 38 years set of the heroic labor of Father Pedro Claver. He devoted himself to the protection and conversion of millions of African slaves, for which he was canonized in the year 1888. In this same place, the local butchery and the public well were located. Today they rest in the complex inner patio. Since 1991, we can observe the monument to San Pedro Claver made in bronze by the Cartagena native Enrique Grau.
Few years after the conclusion of the Temple of San Pedro Claver, King Carlos III, during 1767, ordered the expulsion of the Compañía de Jesús, which lived there, from Spanish domains. The next door building, where the school of the Compañía de Jesús operated, was occupied by the Hospital of San Sebastián, run by the Brotherhood of San Juan de Dios. This last group changed the name of the church to honor the Brotherhood's founder until the 19th century. In 1861, as a consequence of royal decree, religious orders were sent out of their properties, for which the Brotherhood abandoned the building. The temple turned into a military complex and a deposit for goods and cavalry. Only the tomb of San Pedro Claver was respected. On July 27, 1882, President Rafael Núñez ordered the governor of the state of Bolívar to give back the temple and its subsequent patio to Monsignor Eugenio Bifi, Bishop of Cartagena. Once delivered, Bifi dedicated himself to its restoration. In 1896, the Jesuits came back to Cartagena and took possession of the temple that since has had the name of San Pedro Claver, whose remains lie under the main altar.
The layout of the temple is the same as those constructed by the Jesuits in America, following the model set by the Church of Jesus of Rome, a creation of architect Giacomo Vignola. A central nave and a second crossing nave of the same width, with a dome crowning their intersection. There were chapels at each side of the main nave, and sacristies between the presbytery and the arms of the crossing nave. The facade, with its baroque features, is the most monumental in Cartagena. In 1921, French architect Gaston Lilloge replaced the flattened dome shaped like an orange half with a spelt one of the Renaissance style that exists today, and that landmarks the silhouette of the old city. That same year, the clergy bought a high house across the street from the main facade of the temple and tore it down to give way for a more ample plaza.
The adjunct cloister consists of two cell blocks laid out in a right angle. Two upper floors are destined as priest quarters, and in the lower floor we find a museum of religious art that holds works of indisputable value. The mezzanine, the room where San Pedro Claver lived and died, is conserved. In Claver's time, a famous litigation took place because of the military engineers invaded the Jesuits' land when building the wall that was to join the San Ignacio and San Francisco Javier bulwarks. At the protest of the Jesuits, a royal decree from 1627 commissioned Governor Francisco de Murga to find a solution to the conflict. Since the engineers wouldn't budge, the governors allowed part of the school to be built in the top of the wall. Years later, Governor Miguel de Aguilera ordered the Jesuits to demolish what they had built. The litigation ensued for 30 years, until engineer Juan de Somovilla y Tejada reached the agreement of respecting the school on the solid condition that the Jesuits built a second wall in front of the existing one, exactly as it happened years later. This way, La Calle de la Ronda was formed between both walls.
The San Ignacio and San Francisco Javier bulwarks were constructed by Cristobal de Rod and Governor Francisco de Murga circa 1630 and reformed by Juan de Herrera y Sotomayor approximately a century later during the Baroque period of Cartagena's fortifications. San Ignacio Bulwark is in front of the Bahía de las Ánimas that formerly extended into the present Park of the Marina with the purpose of defending the raft and reinforcing San Francisco Javier Bulwark in the protection of Boca Grande entrance, which was usually employed by pirates and corsairs to attack the city. San Ignacio Bulwark was restored in 1971 by Juan Manuel Zapatero. Years before, in 1964, an obelisk rising about 30 meters that was constructed in 1911 at the parapet of the bulwark as a monument to the flag, as a commemoration of the city's absolute independence, was eliminated.
The monument was constructed with the ashlars of the wall that the Jesuits were forced to erect in the 17th century, demolished with that purpose by the commander of the Sucre battalion garrisoned in the plaza, which occupied the building of the Colegio de la Compañía de Jesús, presently the Naval Museum of the Caribbean. The San Francisco Javier Bulwark was restored in 1989 under the direction of architect Alberto Zamudio. The naval hospital that was built on its upper platform